it's a gift and a blessing that I've been able to be part of that journey and be that support. I've told people through the years, I was made to do that for her. I know that I was put here to be that support for her, and it's, even on the outside of it, it truly is a blessing and a miracle to get to watch it. And I couldn't imagine not being in that role, and it's been a gift. There are moments where being a caregiver, that is all you can do. Like when you are in it, when it is recovery, or they are very sick, where it is 24-hour care, that is what the priority is. And then it definitely has peaks and valleys where you don't have to participate as much in the caregiving, but you have to stay educated and knowledgeable so that if the situation arises, you can step right in, and it's a seamless transition from being supportive caregiver to being a full-time caregiver. I jokingly say this, I just had sort of the sixth sense. I mean, the gut instinct about things. So even Amanda was diagnosed prior to having Google at your fingertips. I mean, when she was first diagnosed, I had never I'd heard of cystic fibrosis, but I could not have really explained what it was or what it involved. When her doctor's like, let's just test her for this, I went home and looked it up and what to expect the first year, or that was my guide. And so you had to really be proactive about things and learn about it. I mean, we've had some incredible medical teams through the years, and I think a lot of that is just listening and taking it all in and being able to really think ahead. That's always been my philosophy with raising Amanda, is to try to be as proactive as possible so that she could live as normally and fully and gratefully as she could. So even as a young child, we knew if we had family members that were sick, then we excused ourselves from events. Or we have an incredible family. Our extended family, they always had a very sense of awareness of that. They follow our lead too. So I mean, it is up to us to establish that that boundary, if you will. So if someone were sick, they'd be like, even if we had plans, because we would travel in, it would be like, so-and-so woke up with a fever, or they have a scratchy throat, and they're like, we're not going to come, or we would not come for things, just because we knew that it was important to establish those boundaries early on. And we also tried to be very proactive with CF care. There's a lot of preventative things, and we always made that a priority. Amanda's dad and I, we also tried to absorb a lot of that responsibility for her. Like, if you do your treatments, then we'll set it up, we'll wash all the things so that you can do your treatments and get back to being a kid. And so we kind of established those routines very early on, and I think because of that, it just kind of lended itself into when she got into adulthood and went through her transplants. Most transplant centers require you to have 2 caregivers that are willing to commit to whatever the situation is, whether you have to go into the hospital for a week or for a year, that you are there and you will be there for that duration. Because Amanda's Transplant Center, they require you to relocate they require you, of course, to stay during your recovery, and then they keep you there locally until they deem you fit enough to be able to return home. And so there have been, for 2 of Amanda's transplants, we were there for 3 months. Her 3rd transplant, we were there for 9. So it really does vary from situation to situation, but you have to be knowledgeable. And being a caregiver for transplant is essentially being an extension of the medical team. You really are a vital, important part of their recovery, and not just the physical part, but also the mental and the emotional part. Being there with them, they know they have a teammate. They know that they have a support system, someone that's in it with them, and that helps tremendously on some of the very hard challenging days. Amanda and I have actually talked about this before, because I think as a mom, when there were things that she missed out on, I think that was probably harder for me than it was for her, because I didn't want her to miss out on anything. We've jokingly said I'm very creative when it comes to figuring out how to make things happen for her. Like when she was in college, her school was like 2.5 hours away from home, and I would switch out like her medications, her laundry, meal prep, and so I made that trip every couple hours so she wouldn't have to come home, so that she could have a full college experience. And so those were, we wanted her to be able to do those things. So like if she ended up getting sick, or if she had like a medical procedure and she had to back out of an event, I think I had more disappointment in it, because I didn't want her to miss any of the things that she wanted to do. So that's probably been the non-medical scary side of it. That's the emotional side of being a caregiver, is watching them. And then when they're suffering, and when you are pre-transplant and you need a transplant, you are suffering. You are surviving every day. And then when you are in the hospital and you are recovering from surgery or a complication, and there's pain involved, and there's not anything that you can do to alleviate that. I think from a parent child caregiver relationship, that is really hard, because as a parent you don't want your child to ever feel any sort of pain, whether it's physical pain or emotional pain. So I think that's probably the most challenging piece of it, is not wanting your child to suffer. I jokingly tell people that I've been wiping down shopping carts long before it was cool. I've always done that. I've always had wipes and hand sanitizer long before COVID. Just thinking ahead, like, not touching things. But there have been times when, like for hospitalizations, if you go into a hospital or a clinic appointment and you need to say, I can't sit out in the waiting room, and I would advocate that for Amanda. She is severely immunocompromised. She is a transplant patient, or even pre-transplant when she had CF, and it's a packed ER and you have to go and they're running a high fever. You need to explain, I need to be triaged someplace else, or, and so that's been a case. I've had to advocate before. One time, when she was in high school, she had to have her right middle lobe removed. She had a lobectomy, and there were certain benchmarks that she had to hit to be able to be discharged from the hospital. And she had an event, and she really wanted to be discharged. And the nurse that she had that night, he was visibly sick. Like as soon as he walked in, I knew. I was like, and so I'm like, you can't. You're great, but we need another nurse. And so there are things like that, and there's ways to tactfully do that. I know, and that is a tough role for caregiver, is being advocating enough, but also being respectful and graceful enough about things. But those are probably some of the things where we have to, when we go into situations, because Amanda does have a very complex medical situation, and there are a lot of times that we've been in a medical situation where there's protocol, but there's not medical protocol. It's a level of fear when you're immunocompromised. You sacrifice so much to have, for those that have had transplant or have overcome, illness, whether it is remission from cancer or you have a severely compromised immune system, and you fought so hard to even be alive and to be able to do that. And then when you're severely immunocompromised or just immunocompromised, there's always the fear in the back of your mind, like, if I get exposed to something or I get sick, then I have put myself at risk. Or there's the sometimes the thought or the belief that, oh, well, you're being risky, you're taking risk. And so it's always there, even when you're doing something that you enjoy, and you fight so hard to be able to have an opportunity to live and have a chance to go and do and see and thrive, but not having a safe place or having some other precautions put in place limits that ability. So think of me please, having the forethought to be able to take care of that does open up opportunities for a group of our community that are underserved. They don't get a chance to be able to go to events that maybe they love and would really be a life-changing moment for them. So that Think of Me Please does allow people that have really worked so hard to be alive to actually live. So the next time that you go to give a hug, to shake a hand, to touch a door handle, share a serving utensil, deliver a package, think of my daughter, please.